All right. Is this working? Are we live? Can everyone see me? I think this is working. All right. Hopefully you can. I'm pretty sure this is working. So I'm a very type A kind of guy. I like to start on time, right? So we're starting on time. We are waiting for a couple of people, a couple of stragglers. That always happens. So I mean, this is so important. I'm going to talk to you about why, for many of you watching, Social Security, get this, is worth over $1 million to you. We'll talk in a second about that. People wonder how I get so excited about Social Security. They're like, how is that possible? That's why. It's worth so much money. It's so important. Now, so in the meantime, like I said, we're waiting for a couple stragglers, and I'm going to tell you a joke. I've given this speech, oh my goodness, 150 times. I've tried lots and lots of different jokes. This is my favorite one by far. The people that are a couple minutes late are going to miss out on possibly the best joke they've ever heard. Okay, here it is. So a Minnesota couple decided to vacation to Florida during the winter. They planned to stay at the very same hotel where they spent their honeymoon 20 years earlier. But because of hectic schedules, it was difficult to coordinate their travel. So the husband left Minnesota and flew to Florida on Thursday, and his wife would fly down the following day. The husband checked into the hotel, and there was a computer in his room, so he decided to send an email to his wife. However, he accidentally left out one letter in her email address, and without realizing his error, he sent the email. Meanwhile, somewhere in Houston, a widow had just returned home from her husband's funeral. The widow decided to check her email, expecting messages from relatives and friends. And after reading the first message, she fainted. The widow's son rushed into the room, found his mother on the floor, and saw the computer screen, which read, "To my loving wife. Subject, I've arrived. I know you're surprised to hear from me. They have computers here now, and you're allowed to send emails to your loved ones. I've just arrived and I've been checked in. I see that everything has been prepared for your arrival tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing you then. P.S. Sure is hot down here." Come on, you have to. That's funny. That's a funny joke. All right. We have everybody here now, basically. So let's start with some housekeeping. Now, I've turned off the ability for you to see each other. You also can't see each other's questions and comments, just for privacy's sake. You can still chat with me live. There's a chat bubble. It's in the upper left-hand corner. There's a little chat bubble. So if you have a question, just type it in there. I'll be able to answer it. If I have too many questions during the presentation, which is common, just type it in there and I can answer you later through email. So make sure you stick around. About halfway through the class, you'll learn more about why the Social Security office really is the worst place to get advice. And stick around to the end. At the end, we're really going to explore several strategies that could change your Social Security planning and retirement plans really completely. I mean, I've done this for 7 years. I've sat down with thousands of people. I think I got this down. So let's do it. Let's learn about Social Security. Now, like I said, I'm a very type A kind of person. We're not going to learn all kinds of technical stuff. We're going to look at if you're single, do this. If you're married, do this. If you're divorced, do this. If you're widowed, do this. It's very practical, right? And I try to just get to the point very quickly. I try to make this as short as possible. Let's talk about how I got really excited about Social Security. When I first started doing this, I started sitting down with people, right? Let's say I sat down with a couple and they were each getting $1,500 a month from Social Security, which is pretty average, right? So that's $3,000 a month, which is $36,000 a year. Now, there's a distinct possibility, and we'll talk about this in a second, that you will live 30 years while collecting Social Security. So if you multiply 36,000 by 30 years, that's over $1 million. It's over $1 million. I know on your statement it doesn't say, you have $1 million sitting here, but you do. This is worth more than your house, your 401k, your pension. For the vast majority of people in this country, the most important asset you have is Social Security. So I'm glad you're watching this, because you got to do this right. You've got to do this right. All right. So who am I? My name's David Kennon. I'm the owner and CEO of Kennon Financial. The business is in downtown Sarasota. I am local. Why am I doing this? Well, I found that, and again, why I'm doing this, I'm not selling anything. There's no pressure here. I have no agenda. I've just kind of found that, if I give back to the community, if I really help people, good things come back to me. So, oh, by the way, I think this is funny. So, do you guys ever get those invitations in the mail where you can go to like a free steak seminar? There's a big picture of a steak, and you can go to Ruth's Chris and listen to somebody talk. Okay, here's a hint. If somebody gives you a free steak, they're probably trying to sell you something. If some guy is on a computer screen talking about Social Security, you're probably safe. All right, so let's keep going here. I am a father of 4 too, by the way. And there are my kids. There are my adorable, cute kids. This picture's kind of old. My kids are now 7, 9, 12, and 13. 7, 9. Now, I am an accredited National Social Security advisor. If it makes you feel better that I have letters next to my name, that's good. I say this seriously. I understand this stuff better than the clerks at the Social Security office, so I got this figured out. Now, I do have a book. I wrote a book. You're going to hear a lot of things from the book tonight, because a lot of it has to do with Social Security, but I would encourage you to buy the book. It's on Amazon.com. It's a great book. All right, here's a quick quiz. Let's see how smart you are when it comes to Social Security. So here's the situation. There's this married couple. Their name is Jack and Jane. They're both 66 years old, and they both go into the Social Security office together. Now, Jane is eligible for $2,000 a month, and Jack is eligible for $800 a month. So the first question is, how much does Jane start getting? It's not a trick question. $2,000 a month, right? Now, the second question is a trick question. How much does her husband start getting each month? Do you know? The answer is $1,000 a month. Now, how is that possible? Because if half of your spouse's is more than all of yours, you get the half. Like in an extreme example, let's say Jane was eligible for $2,000. Jack, he was a house husband. He raised 7 kids, and he was eligible for nothing. He had a much harder job than Jane in this scenario. But he didn't have any Social Security coming his way. Jane had $2,000. How much does Jack start getting? $1,000, because it's more than half of 0. Pretty cool. And by the way, this is also true if you're divorced. I'm going to make somebody's day. I'm going to find some money for somebody, and it's going to be good stuff. Okay, so how much does Jack start getting if Jane were to pass away? So again, Jane's getting $2,000, Jack is getting $1,000. So if Jane were to die, how much does Jack start getting? This is a very important concept. We're going to talk about this later strategically. The answer is, if Jane dies, Jack starts getting the full $2,000, and his stops. He starts getting the full $2,000, because if your spouse passes away and they were getting more than you, you get theirs. His would stop. He'd start getting Jane's. Very important strategic concept. We will talk more about that closer to the end when we start talking strategy. How much does Jane get if Jack passes away? She would keep getting the $2,000. Obviously, Jack's would stop. And how much does Jane get if she waits until 67? If she waits an extra year to get her Social Security, it would be another 8%, or she'd get $2,160 a month every month for the rest of her life. Again, we're going to go over all this stuff. All right, this is kind of hard to see, but I'm going to talk about how long you're going to live. So believe it or not, all you relatively healthy 65-year-olds out there, your life expectancy, you ready for this, is 90. If you look on Google, it'll say life expectancy in the US is 78. But you have to realize, if you've made it this far, your life expectancy is not 78, it's actually 90 years old. That means for everyone watching this, for every one of you that dies before 90, one of you will die after. I mean, that's crazy. And obviously the point I'm trying to make is Social Security is it's a long-term decision, right? You can't be real short-sighted when it comes to making Social Security decisions. So you're gonna live a long time. Longer than maybe you thought. All right, let's talk about some amazing news. And as you can see, when I say amazing news, not only is it amazing news, it is amazing news part 1. And do you know what that implies? That means there must be other parts. That must mean there is more amazing news than this. But let's start with this because it's amazing. Let's talk about the solvency of Social Security. I get this all the time. I don't know why it's men so often. A guy comes into my office, he says, I'm taking Social Security as soon as I can, because if I don't, the system's gonna go bankrupt and I'm gonna get nothing. And okay, hold on. Don't think that way, first of all. Let's talk about the solvency of Social Security. Now, I know what I'm talking about. I stay very close to this. I actually read the annual reports they put out. But before we go into some quotes, I can show you 100 quotes where everybody says the same thing. But before we get into that, I want us to be logical. Okay, let's just be logical for a second here. Let's say in 5 years, they come out, the political party, whoever's in charge, comes out and says, look, we can't balance the books. Social Security just is not going to work. We got to cut everyone's benefits by 50%. We have to. We have to cut your benefits in half. Okay, so if this were to happen, A, the political party would never exist again. B, what? Hundreds of thousands, millions of people would be on the street. I'm not exaggerating. How many people in this country are living on Social Security alone? If they were to cut that benefit, the chaos, the economic chaos that it would create would be far more expensive to fix than just keeping Social Security going. So it's okay. Social Security is not going away. They're not cutting your benefits. Maybe my kids have something to worry about. I'm 43. I'm not worried about it, and neither should you. And that's why that's amazing news. Part one. And I can show you a couple quotes here. Like I said, I could show you 100. Boston College's Research Retirement Center said, don't start benefits early because Social Security has money problems. You won't get more if you do. Nearly all proposals to fix Social Security would also protect those age 55 and older. The House Majority Leader at the time said the starting point in any plan has got to be that we need to distinguish between those at or nearing retirement. Anyone 55 or older in this country has got to know that their Social Security benefits will not be changed. All right, next we're going to talk about full retirement age. Now, what that means is full retirement age is when the government gives you your full benefit. So if you look on your Social Security statement at the upper right-hand corner, there is a big bold number. And that big bold number is how much you would get if you wait till your full retirement age. So if you were born in 1954, the age is 66. 1955, 66 and 2 months, and so on and so on. I think you understand. Now, going forward, every example I give, you have to assume that that person's full retirement age is 66. 66. Don't forget this, or you will get confused. That is the full retirement age I'm going to use for all of these awesome examples. Oh, look at this. Amazing news. There's more amazing news. That was like 3 minutes between amazing newses. All right, check this out. Taxes. Taxes and retirement. This is like the best of the amazing newses. Is newses a word? Well, I'm going to make it a word. This is amazing news. Taxes. I mean, I work, I have clients. I'm a financial advisor. Almost every one of them is shocked and amazed at how little they pay in federal income tax once they're retired. You ready for this? Let's say you're married and one of you is getting $1,500 in Social Security and the other one of you is getting $1,500 in Social Security, and let's say one of you is getting a pension, like a teacher's pension of $1,000 a month, and let's say you're taking $1,000 a month out of your 401k. Now that's all taxable income, right? That's income. So if we add all of this up, that's $5,000 a month total. So how much in taxes do you think you would pay on that $5,000? Like, how much do you get to keep? The amount of taxes you would pay on this $5,000 is nothing. There are no taxes. You would get to keep all $5,000. That is amazing news. How is that possible? Well, Social Security is only taxed if you reach certain income limits, and well, you get a standard deduction. A standard deduction is $24,000. So because of the standard deduction and how Social Security is taxed, if you bring in $5,000 or less, if you're married, once retired, that's amazing news. No taxes. I'm getting a lot of questions here. Okay, I'm getting questions about if you're single. So so if you're single, let's give an example. Let's say you're single and you're bringing in $1,500 a month from Social Security, and let's say you're taking out $1,500 a month from your 401k. So that equals $3,000 a month. How much do we pay in taxes? Nothing. No taxes. If it's $3,000 or less and you're single, it's amazing news. Amazing. So if you are married, it's $5,000 or less. If you are single, it's $3,000 or less. Amazing news. All right, I'm getting lots of questions here. I'm getting the question that what happens if you're above, like right above 5,000, like 6,000? The taxes aren't that bad. If you're making $6,000 a month total, you might be paying, I don't know, $200 or $300 a month in taxes. It's not that bad. You'd be surprised. Even up like $10,000 a month, you're not paying more than maybe $1,000 or I don't know, $1,200 a month. So hopefully that answers your question. I hope that was amazing news. All right. In its purest form, this is how this works. You can take Social Security anytime between 62 and 67. There is no like magic timing. Like if you go on your birthday, you don't get more. Every year that you wait, it grows by 8%. So if you take it, instead of taking it at 66, and you take it at 67, you get 8%. If you wait to 70, you get an extra, 32%. You can't wait past 70. The earliest you can take it at 62. If you take it at 62, there is a permanent 25% penalty. So now, if you take it at 62 and a half, you would get 4% more than you'd get if you were 62. Like I said, each month the benefit kind of. So in this example, somebody that was 62, they'd get about $1,100, and if they're 70, they'd get $2,000. So it's almost double if you wait from 62 until 70. So again, I just seeing a million Social Security statements. The average benefit's around $1,500. The maximum you can get where you're making like 6 figures your whole life is about $3,000 a month. If you make 30 grand most of your life, or if you make 60 grand, you're not going to make twice as much in Social Security as if you made 30 grand, right? They kind of smush in the benefits. The benefit calculation is very complicated, but just look. It's based on your 35 highest years earnings. And all right, I have lots of questions. Okay, I'm getting the same question here. What happens if at the end of your career you start making less money, like you're going part-time instead of full-time? Generally, it does not affect anything because they're taking your highest 35 years. And just the way the formula works, if the last couple of years you're making a lot less money, you're okay. Your Social Security might go down by a couple bucks, but not a big deal. All right, very common question. If you are still working and collecting Social Security, what happens? If you are 62, 63, 64, or 65 and working and taking Social Security, you have to be careful. You cannot make more than $18,240 a year, $18,240 a year if you are working and if you are below your full retirement age. Let me give you an example. This is a true example. Let's talk about Ms. Nurse. This is a few years ago. Ms. Nurse, she turned 62. Her neighbor told her, I don't know what he was thinking, but her neighbor told her that Social Security was going to go bankrupt and she'd be crazy if she didn't take it at 62. And she did. And she was eligible for about $1,500 a month. Now, the problem was she was still working and she was making $50,000 a year. It's a big problem because what they do is the government would say, okay, she's 32,000 over the limit, right, over the 18,000. So you divide that by 2. That is a $16,000 penalty they hit her with. So she should have gotten 18,000 throughout the year, but instead she got 2,000 because by the time they stopped penalizing her. So don't do that. In this situation, she went back to the Social Security office. She changed her mind. You have up to 1 year to change your choice. All right. Okay. I'm getting a lot of the same question again. As far as the 18,000 goes, they're only talking about income, like W-2, 1099. They're not looking at rental property income. They're not looking at money from 401ks. They're not looking at pensions. They're just looking at you're going to a job, you're getting paid. You can't make more than 18,000. Oh, here we go. It's been too long. Let's do amazing news part 3. Could there be an amazing news part 4? I don't know. Maybe there is. I hope so. That would be amazing news all in and of itself. So let's talk about Medicare. Again, I sit down with people and their entire retirements are almost ruined because of very common misconceptions about how all these social programs work that the government run once you retire. So I have people come into my office and they say, Dave, I can't spend any money because what if I have a heart attack when I'm, I don't know, 79 and I get a bill for $400,000 and I'm bankrupt and I'll never be able to pay it off. And whoa, just hold on here for a second. People live their whole lives living this way, thinking that they have to have enough money in case they have some sort of medical event. That is not how Medicare works. Medicare does not work that way. Medicare has a maximum out of pocket in any given year. There's a number, the most you can possibly, be charged in any given year. I'd be impressed if anyone knew this in the viewing audience. It's $6,700. If you have a $300,000 medical bill and you are on Medicare, you pay $6,700. Now that's per person per year. So if you have a heart attack and you have a $200,000 bill, you pay $6,700. If you have a heart attack the next year and have another bill, you only pay $6,700. If you have another heart attack the next year, well, you're probably dead at that point, so there's no point in even talking about that. So that's amazing news. Medicare, it covers more than you think. I find that a lot of my retired clients are surprised how little they pay in medical expenses, less than they were expecting. Oh, here we go. This is going to get interesting. Let's talk about divorce situations, because, get ready for this, if you were married at least 10 years and you've been divorced for 2 and you are not remarried, so married 10 years, not remarried, you have all the same rights and benefits as if you were still married. What? Okay, let me give you an example. Let's talk, this is a true, real example. Let's talk about Jean and Doug. This is my Aunt Jeannie. This is my mom's sister. She's sweetheart, and Uncle Doug. So Aunt Jeannie, she's 66, Uncle Doug 66. They were married for years and years, got divorced, very sad. They have 2 kids. Anyway, both 66. Jean didn't work that much. She worked part-time here and there. She raised the kids. She was only eligible for $600 a month. Now, her husband, Doug, great job, 6-figure job. He was eligible for $3,000 a month. So she went to the Social Security office and she said to them, my very intelligent and handsome nephew told me that I might be able to get something off of my ex. And the clerk said, you're absolutely right. How much money is Jeannie getting now from Social Security? $1,500, right? $1,500 is half of Doug's, which is more than all of hers. Even though they're divorced, she's allowed to collect off of him. Does it affect Doug? No, it doesn't hurt him in any way. Okay? Now, here's a question. What happens? Now, we would never wish any harm on Doug, right? We're not that mad at him. But what would happen if Doug were to get hit by a bus? What would happen? What would happen to Aunt Jeannie? She'd become a widow, right? She'd become a widow. And as a widow, how much is she entitled to? She's entitled to 100% of what her husband or ex-husband was receiving. So Aunt Jeannie would go from $1,500 to $3,000 a month if Doug were to pass away. All right? Now, don't put a hit out on your spouse, but ex-spouse. But that is crazy. I have a lot of people that come into my office that find money that they didn't even know was out there. All right, I'm getting lots of the same questions again. The questions I'm getting are, what happens if Doug gets remarried? That's a good question. So let's answer that. I'll use another real-world example. This is Grandpa. This is on my dad's side, Grandpa and Grandma. So Grandpa and Grandma were married not for that long. They actually got divorced in the 1960s, which was scandalous at the time. Seriously, nobody got divorced back then. So Grandpa and Grandma got divorced, and then Grandpa, now this was like 60 years ago, so it's a little gossipy, but he met Katie. We don't exactly know how they met or when they met. Look, every family's got stuff going on, right? All families have stuff going on, skeletons in the closet. So Grandpa marries Katie. Grandma never gets remarried. Grandpa and Katie are married for a long time. Now, Grandpa was also an alcoholic, right? Every family. So he died relatively young, probably his mid-60s. So when he passed away, Grandma got a call from the Social Security office. They don't make this call anymore, but they called her and they said, ma'am, your ex-husband just passed away. Your next Social Security benefit is going to be twice as much. She's like, all right, that's pretty cool. But what about Katie? She's put up with this guy who was not easy to be married to way longer than Grandma ever did. How much does Katie get? She gets she gets 100% of what, so they each get 100% of what Grandpa was getting. Does that make sense? Not especially, but that's, I mean, in theory, if Grandpa got married, or if they got divorced and Grandpa got married again, 3 people could be collecting off of him. So that is crazy stuff, crazy stuff. All right, let's talk about widow benefits. Now, you only have to be 60 to receive widow's benefits, but the same earnings rules apply, right? You can't make more than $18,000. If you're still working, making good money, you probably can't take the benefit even though you're eligible. But, so you only need to be married 1 year. If you can get it as early as 60. And the strategy when it comes to this all right. This is my really big pet peeve when it comes to the Social Security office. And I know this might come as a shock to you, but the Social Security office is really not there to help you. I know it's a shock. They've been told, they've received the memo, they've been told to just get people in and out of there as quickly as possible. There is no strategizing, there is no helping. So what I suggest is whenever you go to the Social Security office, you have exactly 0 questions, no questions. You know exactly what you're doing. You go in, you go out, you're done, okay? So let me give you an example of what can happen when you don't know what you're doing, okay? So let's talk about Ms. Widow. I've seen this probably 10 times, and it gets my blood boiling because the people that need this money the most generally are divorcees and widows, and they're the ones that, don't understand this and they get less money. So, Ms. Widow, she retired and she was 62 and she was eligible for $1,500 a month. She had worked, so she had her own Social Security. She went to the clerk and and she said, I'm a widow. I understand I'm eligible for something from my deceased husband. And the clerk said, that's true. You're eligible for $1,400 a month. And she said, oh, okay. So I could get $1,500 from my own or $1,400. Well, that's a no-brainer. I'll just start taking my benefit. She signed the form, checked the box, walked out. Huge mistake. Monumental 6-figure mistake. I've seen this so many times. In this situation, she absolutely wants to take the $1,400. She wants to take the survivor benefit. Why? What happens to your own benefit if you don't take it? It keeps growing. So you would take $1,400 a month all the way to age 70, where this $1,500 a month would grow to almost $3,000 a month. It would almost double. So you would get so let's see. If you do this right, you'd get about an extra $20,000 a year. And let's say you live another 30 years. That's $600,000, that you left on the table. That would be really unfortunate. But anyway, I'm just saying, if widow situations are complicated, make sure you do that one correctly. Sometimes you take your spouse's first and then switch to yours. Sometimes you take yours first and switch to your spouse's. And by the way, as I go through this tonight, I find, and I'm already getting so many questions here, I'm having a hard time keeping up. There are dozens of different situations out there. The people that are watching this right now, I can't tell you, there's so many variables, ages and when you want to retire, and if you have a retirement account. There's so many different variables. So if you want to, I do offer a free Social Security analysis. Again, I'm just kind of doing this to help people out. But you do have the ability, if you're kind of watching this and you're saying to yourself, all right, Dave, I see what you're saying, but I'm not sure what's right exactly for me. You can set up an appointment. Actually, in that little chat box, that little text box thing, if you want an appointment, just write in the word yes, and we'll contact you because we know who you are. And we will get you on the books for an appointment. And if you get an appointment, you will get a magic ticket. What I give to people is when they leave the office, they get like a piece of paper, and it shows you exactly what to do when and how much you're going to get and what dates you're supposed to apply and all that good stuff. So again, if you want to come on in, you have that option. All right, now we're going to talk about disability and Social Security. Let's say you're 50 years old, you go on disability, and you start getting $2,000 a month. How do they determine the $2,000 a month? Do you know? It's the same as what they would have received at 66, at their full retirement age. So all that happens is they advance their full retirement to their disability date. And when somebody on disability turns 66, it automatically switches from disability to retirement. You cannot be on disability past retirement age. Oh, amazing news. It's been a while. It's time for more amazing news. Sadly, I believe this is the last amazing news. All right, let's talk about inflation. This is exciting. It's not going to bankrupt you. Again, I have all of these clients coming in terrified that even though they might be okay now, in 20 years, when gas is $20 a gallon and a loaf of bread is $50 a gallon, they're going to starve on the street. Now, hold on. Inflation is not going to bankrupt you for two very logical reasons. The first reason is Social Security increases lockstep with inflation. Right? So what that means is if inflation goes up 5%, your Social Security benefit goes up 5%. If you're not collecting benefits yet, it goes up 5%, right? So like in 1980 when interest rates were crazy high, right? You could get a CD for 15%. You would have gotten a 14.3% raise on your Social Security because that's what inflation was at the time. In 1990, you would have gotten a 5.4% raise because that's what inflation was. This year, it's a 1.6% increase because that's what inflation was. So that's the first reason why your inflation is not going to bankrupt you. The second reason is as inflation happens, and it does happen, do you think you spend more money in your early 60s or your early 80s? Early 60s, big time. The statistics show that you spend 40% less money in your 80s than you do in your 60s, right? Travel less, houses get paid off, you buy cars less often, less money on food, on gas, on clothing, everything is less, right? So as your spending goes down, inflation goes up, they offset each other. Between Social Security increases and decreases in spending, you're going to be okay. That is amazing news. Part 4. Again, this is just the cost of living adjustments through the years, which I just talked about. All right, it's time to strategize. Let's strategize. So what I'm about to show you is probably, in my opinion, the most important strategy. We've got some other good ones, but this is the best. So pay attention. So in this example, Mr. 62-year-old comes into my office, and let's say his wife is 56. Now let's make her 58. Mr. at 62 is eligible for $1,500 a month. Mrs. at 66, her full retirement age, is eligible for $800 a month. So Mr. comes in and he says, Dave, I just retired. I'm taking my Social Security. You can't stop me. I'm taking it. I mean, my dad died at 60. My brother died at 61. I'm taking it. I'm not living as long as you're saying I'm going to live. I get it. I understand why you would think that way. But his wife is sitting there and she's going, My mom's still alive. She's 90 years old. My grandmother lived to be 107. I have incredible longevity in my family. What is the husband doing to his wife without even realizing it? He's cutting her benefit. He's dramatically cutting her benefit for the long term. Because let's take a look at this. Let's say somehow, this would be impossible, but let's say somehow we convince this guy to wait until 70, at which point his benefit would be around $3,000 a month. And let's just say in this example, on his 70th birthday, he dies. He was right. He was right. He never received a single Social Security check. And do you know what he said with his dying breath? He cursed my name. He was a very bitter man. All right. I hope that's funny. I think that's funny. All right. So anyway, if we let him wait until 70, he's getting $3,000. He would have gotten $3,000. So his wife, who is now 66, starts getting how much? $3,000. She starts getting her spouse's if it's more than hers, which is way more. So what that means is she's going to get almost $20,000 a year more, right? You following this? Because he could have taken it here and got $1,500. He waited to get $3,000. She then gets $3,000 instead of $1,500. So she's getting an extra $20,000 a year, okay? Now, she's only 66. She lives another 30 years. Easy. 20,000 times 30 is $600,000. We're not talking about small amounts of money here. If you strategize correctly, it makes a huge, huge, huge difference. When I sit down with people, what I say is, I would much rather, instead of both of you getting $2,000 a month, I would much rather one of you be getting $3,000 and the other getting $1,000. And why is that? Because if one of you dies, right, you lose half of your income, you lose 25% of your income. So generically speaking, the person with the smaller Social Security benefit, oftentimes you can take that sooner than later. And if you're the main breadwinner, oftentimes it makes sense to build up at least one benefit as much as possible because you know that one benefit is going to be paying out as long as one of you is alive, which chances are in your 90s. So very important concept. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, more strategy. All right, here's another big picture concept. A lot of people ask me, Dave, if I take it at 62, I get more checks, right? I get lots and lots and lots and lots of little benefit checks. If I take it at 66, I get a medium amount of checks that are bigger. Or if I take it at 70, I just get less but huge checks, right? So the question is, where does this all cross over? The answer is right around 80. And what that means is, if you take it at 62 and add up all those checks, or if you take it at 70 and add up all those checks, if you die right around 80, it's the same amount of money if you look at the total. If you start at 66 and add up all the checks, if you start at 70 and add up all the checks, and you die at 80, you're going to get the same amount of money either way. So if you think you're going to live past 80, it could very well make sense to wait a little bit. If you don't think you're going to live past 80, you might think you want to take it sooner. Again, you want to look at, if you're the higher breadwinner, you really want to wait. A lot of people watch this and they think I'm saying that nobody should take their Social Security at 62. I'm not saying that. For some people, it makes sense. So I'm not. Again, there are so many different situations out there, it's very difficult for me to speak to all of them. Again, I've sat down with hundreds and hundreds of people, and they're all different. All right, here's another concept. This is a good one too. So let's say you are 65 let's use it. Let's say you're 66 and you're eligible for $2,000 a month from Social Security. Now, and let's say you're retired. So this can grow by 8%, meaning over those 4 years, that's 32%. So you'd get what, around 2,700, give or take. So you know, if you wait until 70, you get a guaranteed 8% increase, right? But if you're retired, you might say, look, Dave, I need the money. I'm retired. I need to take my Social Security benefit. There's a strategy. So instead of taking your Social Security at 66, if you have some retirement savings, and to some people, they say, this is crazy, Dave. I don't want to spend my money. But this is very logical. Let's say you have $300,000 in your 401k. Now, normally you'd receive $2,000 a month, but like I said, if you retired, a lot of people need that money. So instead of taking $2,000 a month from Social Security, you take $2,000 a month from your 401k. So that's what, $24,000 a year. If you do it over that's like $100,000. So what that means is you'll have less money here, but a lot more money in Social Security. And again, obviously the arguments are 8% guaranteed increase in benefits. Where else can you put money that you're going to get a guaranteed 8%? So this is a very legitimate strategy I use with a lot of people if you have the assets to do it. Same concept. This kind of is lockstep with what I was just saying. If you can somehow get your benefit up to 70, let's say you're getting $3,000 a month instead of, this is a really extreme. Let's say you could have gotten $2,000 a month at 66 and $3,000 a month at 70. Whenever you get these cost of living increases, it applies to the benefit amount. So on the, let's use this slide, what we have on the slide. So if you got $1,000 a month at 62, which would be, and let's say this person would get $3,000 a month at 70, if there is a 5% raise, this person gets $150 and this person gets 50. So what's going to happen is over time, believe it or not, a lot of your benefits, and this sounds crazy, are going to double. And what I mean by that is cost of living increase, increase. And if you live long enough, you are going to double your Social Security benefit. So would you rather double the smaller 62 benefit or the bigger 70 benefit? You make the choice. Some people will say to me, look, why don't I take it at 62, take that money, invest it, and then that throws off your break even because I'm investing the money and it's making money and it changes everything. That's true. And it's actually a very legitimate strategy. But what I've found is that even though people say they're going to do it, nobody does it, ever. I have never met a single person that took Social Security early and then actually invested the money for the next 4 or 8 years or whatever it was. So that's the first problem. Obviously, you can't guarantee what the money's going to do once you invest it versus the guarantee of the Social Security increase. There's tax implications. It is a complex strategy, but it could be worth looking into. So usually by the end of these webinars, people have the same questions. They want to know, what strategy is right for me in particular. A lot of people want to know when they can retire, what age you should take Social Security, all this stuff. So next steps. I cannot emphasize enough, okay, how important it is to get this decision right. I cannot emphasize it enough. Now, and some people will say to me, well, we'll plan for this in a few years, when the time is right, maybe we're a little closer to retirement. No, if you don't plan now, you won't even know what direction you're going. You need a strategy now. You need this info to make informed decisions about your future retirement now. Okay? Anyway, So if, like I was saying before, if you would like your own personalized analysis, just type yes in the chat box and we will find you. Again, it doesn't cost anything. My office is in downtown Sarasota. Oh, if we meet, please, 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 please involve your spouse. Bring your spouse. I refuse to sit down with only one person because I've done this for a long time. And if I do this amazing strategizing with one person and then turn around and have to do the whole thing again with somebody else, and there's all kinds of miscommunication, you want to be on the same page. You want to do this together. Bring your spouse, bring your spouse. So if you come in, what you will need is your Social Security statement, both of your Social Security statements. You can print them online at ssa.gov, ssa.gov. And if you come in, I will give you your magic ticket, which will tell you exactly what to do when, and you'll be prepared. So, I mean, if you have a friend, coworker, family member, please pass this information along. Obviously, I feel very passionately that everyone gets this information before they apply for Social Security. So, like I said, pass on. They can go to sarasotaclass.com. That's the website. sarasotaclass.com if they want to sign up for something in the future. So I'm hoping that was helpful for everyone, and I hope you learned something. Maybe I'll see some of you again for your analysis. Pass and share along the information for the class, and thank you.